on this computer, see how that goes. This is Christopher Carter. All my friends and my mother now call me KC. I'm an executive coach for founders and leaders, and also a meditation teacher for organizations. I would say all of my coaching experience and practice, whether I'm coaching myself or coaching others, is all built around some form of a mindfulness practice. The ability to tell, like, do you even know that you're doing that thing that gets in the way of the thing that you want? That's a mindfulness practice. And the most powerful practice in my experience has been a daily meditation practice. My journey with this started about 15 years ago now, and it literally saved my life. I was having a very stressful period of my life, and my brain was literally misfiring, and I ended up going in for a CT scan, and it looked like I was having a stroke. And coming out of that experience, I almost, the anesthetic is what I was, but coming out of that experience, I got serious about personal and professional development, and all the roads that I went down in personal and professional development kind of led back to meditation or stilling practice. And this is what I feel really compelled to share with all of you. I've been sharing it for about the last 8 years as a meditation teacher. There's been a few thousand people that have taken the 30-day meditation challenge, some of you included, and we've had a lot of success with creating a daily habit. And what I've noticed this year in 2020 is that it's been really hard to maintain any level of consistency with things. It's just a barrage of everything coming at us. And there's a lot of reasons why we fall off this practice. And I want to share some tools that have been working for me lately and working with some of my corporate clients and creating that unbreakable daily habit, or at least a commitment to more regular practice. Does that all sound good so far? And as questions come up as we move through, just feel free to raise your hand, hit me in the chat, hit me in the questions box, wherever you can find me. I am going to go ahead and mute everybody right now, and I promise that we will be unmuting periodically to share our experience. Actually, if I could just ask you to mute yourselves, that's cool. It'll save me a little air traffic control time. And great, I appreciate it. Okay, any other? All right, permission to chill. Actually, who do I'm gonna call on somebody out of the gate here to do a little reading for me. Robert, you're a good reader. Would you mind reading something for me? All right, cool. So you could unmute yourself, Robert. Okay. So at This Epic Life, we talk about 4 permissions as access to our highest expression. And the first and most foundational one is the permission to chill. And that's where we're going to be focusing today. So Robert, could I have you just read the part in the chill little green colored there? It starts with only we.
Permission to chill. Only we can and must hit the pause button. In our frenzied pace of life, to chill is a wholly defiant act. Perspective, creativity, and breaks from suffering all come from creating space. We create space in our schedules, between each thought and between each breath. We chill to remember who we are and what we're capable of. We meditate daily.
Great. And this has been refined over many years as kind of a core value of my organization and what we teach and what I know works. And I know meditating daily can seem like a very lofty, ambitious statement or goal, but it's absolutely doable. And if you know anything about me, or if you might be able to tell from me today, is I have uncomfortable levels of energy. Mother Nature is frequently like, slow down. So I had to really practice this in myself, and it's been truly a transformative practice. So why meditation and why now? Well, 2020, you know, all of these things are coming home to roost. We have a pandemic. We have a little bit of a scary election situation happening in the United States. We have very uncivil public discourse. We have climate change. We have some of the most beautiful lands on our planet catching fire and not stopping burning. That in itself is tragic and hard to be with. all of these incredible people that we love so much, and celebrities, athletes, teachers are literally walking off the planet. We've lost so many people this year, and it doesn't seem to be slowing down anytime soon. In fact, I think it's only going to keep speeding up and compounding in its intensity. I don't say that to scare anyone, but there's this military term called VUCA: volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. All these forces are speeding up in our lives, and 2020 has been kind of a front row seat for all these forces coming at us at once. And how we learn to cope with all this is just kind of lighting another candle on the other end. And my life in my 20s looked like a wax menorah of candles, too many candles burning, unsustainable. And this week I'm running into it myself. My wife is recovering from a couple surgeries. I'm finding myself staying up a little bit later to take care of the kids. And as a result, we get a little bit more frazzled. We tend to, when we're a little bit more frazzled, we maybe make decisions that affect our well-being. Maybe we eat the thing we shouldn't be eating, or drink a little bit more. So I am going to encourage us as we go along here to really think about healthier ways of coping. Hey, Brent, good to see you. I'm asking everybody to mute for right now so we keep free of distractions, but we're talking right now about why meditation and why now. And, I jokingly call 2020 a dumpster fire, but in reality, nothing could have been better teed up by some benevolent divine force for all of us to look more holistically at ourselves and the ways that we are living. In fact, one of my friends, Teresa O'Connor, she's this incredibly gifted spiritual intuitive. She actually connected her consciousness to the consciousness of the virus. If you can believe that, if you could suspend disbelief and just put on your metaphysical hat for a second, she communicated with the consciousness of this virus, COVID-19. And she basically said, this is a benevolent force. It's a great teacher sent by some other great teacher to show us how to live more sustainably. And if we look objectively at what this year has given us, some of us have received a great gift this year. More time with family, more time living or designing our lives in alignment with our values. And I think meditation is probably the most key clutch practice to help us live in alignment with our values. So all of 2020 is not a dumpster fire by any stretch. It's actually, there's a lot of gifts in here. The Serenity Prayer, I did a little video about this yesterday, but it hit me on my run yesterday. And Alcoholics Anonymous was founded right here in Akron, Ohio, where I live and work. And it saved millions of lives. And it's based, at the foundation, they use the Serenity Prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And in a year like 2020, we are well advised to work on the wisdom to know the difference, because there's plenty of shit we cannot change. All we can do is practice cultivating this discernment to know the difference. And once we know the difference, then we could reclaim our power. So the reason I made Serenity green is that Serenity, just think of it as permission to chill. That's what we're after today in meditation practice. Grant me the permission to chill, to accept the things I cannot change, to be with the things that I find very difficult to be with. The courage is orange because that's what we call around here permission to glow in the dark. That's our power, our ability to flip the switch. And the wisdom, I think of that as discernment. And meditation is the practice of discernment. To be able to tell, I had this college professor that was teaching me to think critically, and he's like, you're here so you could learn how to tell the difference between chocolate and cheese. And what he meant was just the discernment of knowing what we can change and what we can't. So let's take a second and just take a taste here. Okay, so come up to a comfortable seated posture, your thighs parallel to the floor, straight lines, straight shoulders, chin parallel to the floor. Your hands can be upturned you can bring them out to your knees and then pull them in towards your body, because when you do, it's going to pull your shoulders down and back. And this is what I call correct posture. I'm not into, there's no one size fits all. Adjust your body however you need to be comfortable. So as we dial in this posture, what it's doing is it's giving our mind permission to slow down a little bit. We want to give our bodies just enough of something to do so the snow globe of our mind can kind of settle. So the posture also includes putting your gaze with eyes closed or half open, whatever's comfortable for you, up at the point between the eyebrows or the center of the forehead. In yoga, we call this the Kutastha center, or the third eye. Just rest your eyes at about a 45-degree angle at the center of your forehead. You don't need to cross your eyes or strain. Just place your attention there. And as you do, just notice the thoughts slowing down a little bit. So let's take a deep breath in all the way down to your abdomen for the count of 4. Just hold it. And we'll take a long exhale out through your mouth for a count of 8. In for 4 through your nose. 3, 4, hold for 7. Big exhale for 8 through your mouth for a count of 8. Now do it on your own count. In for 4 through your nose. Hold. And big exhale through your mouth for a count of 8. Now just fall into the steady rhythm of your breath, in and out through your nose. And as thoughts or distractions arise, just let them be there and then kind of fade off into the background. And as your attention strays, just bring your awareness back to your breath. Steady breaths in and out through your nose. Each breath pulling you a little bit more deeply into the present moment. Each breath helping you notice your ability to choose where you place your attention. And I'd like to invite you to set an intention for our time together. What is one word that represents what you want to walk away with today? Is it the habit? Is it inspiration? Is it calm? What is the word that's written across the screen of your awareness? Is it connection? So let's bring our awareness back when you have a second. And as you open up your eyes, just tune into your body a little bit and tune into your thoughts and just the experience you're having in the room that you're in. You know, there's this virtual room we're in, but also the physical room. Are you more present? Is there anything around you that you notice that you weren't noticing before we did that? It's just a very little short example of what a meditation can include. And we'll get a little bit deeper into the mechanics of that in a second, but just pay attention. And if you can, in the chat, please share your intention. What was the word you had in the chat? Lisa, thanks for joining us. Sorry, when I came out of meditation, I just realized you were in the waiting room. So hopefully you had time to meditate in the waiting room.
Thank you.
And I'm asking everybody to mute themselves for now, but please in the chat, let's share these. Let's share some of these words: power, control, calm, presence. Mine is connection, refuge, yeah, wellness. So our goal is for you to walk away with these on some level. And they're going to look different for everybody. Common myths of meditation is that it's the same as relaxation, that it's a passive process. And if you've ever tried to do it, you know it's anything but a passive process. I mean, clearing the slate of your mind over and over is a very active process. And the first maybe couple of years I tried to meditate, I would just fall asleep because I thought it was the same as relaxation. Definitely not. This is the most important key, is that the goal is not to empty your mind. We are very rarely ever in a fully transcendent space where we are free from our thoughts. To think is human. And meditation is not being free and clear of the thoughts, but it's the time we take to bring our focus back as many times as necessary. So when thoughts arise, we clear them out, we bring the attention back to the breath or back to the mantra. So it's that kind of workout that we're getting. And when I do this, the gym that I'm going to right here, the muscle that I'm flexing, this is my meta attention. So there's the thing where we want to be focusing on. And maybe that's the, I don't want to think about politics for 5 freaking minutes because it's freaking me out. Okay. And our thoughts will wander, we'll get distracted, but we bring that back to that calm place, that gap that we want to create. So that's how I define meditation. It's the time that you invest every single day, ideally, to bringing your attention back. Does that make sense? And it's really important because it gives a lot of self-compassion. Because if we think that meditation is just the freedom from thought, we will fail every time and we'll be really hard on ourselves. I suck at this, and we won't stick with it. It's a really important distinction. Common myth is that it's only limited to Eastern philosophies or religions, that it's only a spiritual practice. I personally believe it's the ultimate spiritual practice. However, it's by no means limited to just that. So we can use it for everything from mindset training to how we mindfully eat, mindfully parent our kids, mindfully manage our time. But it's not only used to pursue enlightenment, but I don't want to discourage that either, because I don't like meditation teaching that completely divorces it from the spiritual component. And it's about detaching and escaping from your problems. Big common term these days, spiritual bypassing. You know, I'm just going to go hide and meditate. You know, my family is running amok, my kids are going nuts, the house is burning down, and there I am meditating, you know, ignoring my problems. It's more like the fact that I meditated for a few years leading up to that moment prepares me to handle that moment. So it's by no means an escape, it's the practice of being with what's going on. And it's the opposite of detaching. It's full immersion in the moment. My favorite definition of sobriety, it's not the absence of booze, it's being completely enamored with all of your circumstances in the moment. Not being attached, because that's kind of a sticky subject, a sticky topic is attachment, but being immersed in your moment and being, you know, at peace with your problems. So think about, we're going to get into making a commitment for the next 4 weeks. We want to turn the corner together into election season and beyond. I think we've already turned some corners. But 4 weeks from today, what could we be celebrating? And be realistic. I think it's absolutely possible to meditate every single day between now and November 13th. I'm going to be doing it anyway, but it's taken me years to figure that out. But even 5 minutes a day is huge. And if you can't find or create 5 minutes a day to just practice breathing with yourself, there might be some other issues that you want to take a look at. Like 5 minutes is usually a pretty easy investment for most people, with the goal of working up to 15 minutes a day. And Wendy Baird, if you don't mind sharing, can you share a little bit about your meditation journey over the last few years? Because you've been somebody who's created a pretty consistent habit. And can you kind of tell us where you started and kind of on average where you are these days?
I probably started like 20 years ago, half-assed, and just did a little bit here and there, and tried to use it to calm down. I didn't feel like I really knew what I was doing. And then when I went to Camp GLP, gosh, I think the first year was, I did not go the first year. I was there the second year.
Oh, 15, yeah.
2015. Yeah. And what was so interesting is it was a really, really weird upheaval time in my life with some business stuff and personal stuff. And I remember going to your workshop and just committed to doing it for 3 days. That's when it really kind of started to settle in. So since then, it's been pretty consistent, really. But you know, I track it on Insight Timer now, and I think today I was up to 100 or 880 days or something like that.
Wow.
But without missing, that's just without missing. But I absolutely like, it's how I start my day, even if it's only for 15 minutes. But then there are times when it's much longer. And actually, I set timers on my phone now just for just breathe, stretch and breathe.
And reboots throughout the day.
I do. And it's funny because sometimes my staff, well, when they're here, they're not here right now. We're all still working remotely, but we will, they'll laugh at me, but then they'll get up and stretch and, take a breath. And actually, I've even brought it into a lot of client meetings, especially this year, just to say, hey, how's everybody doing? Let's just take a breath, put our feet flat on the floor. And, so it's something that I'm just bringing to work and life every day.
See, that's great. And what I love about Wendy's example is that she's a busy executive leader, has her own company, and she brings her spiritual presencing component into business meetings. And there's kind of no more important work we could be doing in corporate environments or business environments right now than sharing some of that stillness, sharing some of that peace. And there are companies, a lot of companies that do little presencing exercises before they start off a meeting. It would totally feel weird 10 years ago to say, we're going to sit here and breathe in silence for a minute before, but with everything that's going on right now and the level of intensity, it's really a gift, and people will thank you for it. So think about what you could be celebrating 4 weeks from today after committing and continually committing to showing up. Okay, there's going to be 5 keys that I'm going to cover here. The 5 keys of creating, these are really, you can apply these to creating any habit, but they're exceptionally powerful when we're talking about meditation, and that's consistency. And I want you to think about what's actually in the way of you staying consistent. I get it, the kids wake up at different times, there's variables, client workloads can change, there's seasonal things that affect what times we get up and how consistent we stay, but think about what is actually in the way of you staying consistent, because we're going to come back to this question. In my experience, consistency is everything. And however long we do the thing or however long we meditate, the duration is nowhere near as powerful as how consistently we do it over time. And I think about the consistency of meditation like putting little nickel deposits of 5 minutes a day or 10 minutes a day, a dime, into this little piggy bank. And that little investment has a compounding rate of return that we get in waves of self-compassion, gratitude, our ability to be with difficult circumstances. So but we only get that if we're consistently making the deposits. So if we make a, $5, 500 minutes of meditation deposit and then don't go back to it, we're not going to get that same level of return as we would if we're just consistently showing up like that little drip of water that'll eventually go through a slab of granite. It's consistency is everything. So just remember this little formula: consistency over duration. I usually have clients and students write this out and just put it somewhere, because there's a lot of self-compassion in this statement, is that consistency is a lot easier than you realize when we're not so consumed with the duration, how many miles I ran, how many minutes I meditated. I used to be really big about advertising how much I was meditating. A, because I was proud of myself, but B, it was more about like, it was kind of an ego thing about, wow, look at how long I'm meditating. And that's great. Like, you could always work up to doing longer sessions. And the more you do it, the more you need it. However, at first, just, set the bar really low with a lot of self-compassion for what's the minimum amount of time where I could be the most consistent. And think about it in terms of a game that you will win this week. Is it realistically, is 5 days more realistic than 7? That's fine, but for the purposes of this conversation, we're talking 5 to 10 minutes of meditation a day. Just, go big and just try to declare that you can do it for 7 days. Because if you declare it as a game you will win, that language gets into your subconscious and makes it easier to achieve. So the second key is sequence, because the thing that usually gets in the way of consistency for people is when they do it and if they're setting themselves up for success. When you meditate plays a huge role in how consistently you meditate. At the end of this, I'm going to share a couple resources. There's one on the site about designing the ideal morning routine, just setting up a sequence that allows you to kind of make meditating like brushing your teeth. We don't think about brushing our teeth anymore. Hopefully we don't. We don't write it down to make sure we do it. We don't put it on a to-do list. It's just automatic. And meditation, thank God, has become something like that for me. But at first, you want to just set yourself up to do it at the right time of the morning or the right time of day, where you can just make it consistent. Okay, I've thrown a couple things at you. Does anybody remember consistent? We could unmute ourselves for a second. I'll just do a little spot quiz here, because I don't know that you need to take a ton of notes, but there's a few key things I want you to remember. Consistency over what? You can also hit me in the chat with it. If you said duration, you're killing it. Consistency over duration is huge. And the second key we talked about was sequence. And I think of that as like a startup sequence for a computer or a supercomputer. I am not properly firing on all cylinders unless I meditate. If I'm properly meditated and if I wrote a little bit in the morning or did my morning practices, then I feel like I'm getting to be the guy that I know and have come to love. But without those things, we're not quite, showing up the way we want to. So let's take another second here and do another breathing exercise. For this one, just come back up into the comfortable seated posture. Let's take a deep breath in. Just hold it for a second, and I want you to picture the number 10. The number 10 with a circle around it on the screen of your awareness, just the number 10. And as you exhale, picture exhaling this number 10 into a little bit of a bubble that goes around your entire person, almost like a balloon. So visualize the number 10, we exhale. And around us, is this ecosystem, this little bubble. It's like a giant yoga ball that we're floating in. And with, you could feel your feet on the floor, you could feel your weight in your chair, but just picturing this bubble. Let's also picture that as we breathe in and out, we are circulating the energy that best serves us. And this energy cycles out of the top of our forehead or our crown chakra, almost like a fountain. And it comes around, and within this bubble that we created, it winds down and around us, braiding around us in circles, and coming up cycles and recirculates up through the soles of our feet. And let's bring back that intention that you said. What was that word? I saw power, wellness, connection, well-being, light, refuge, peace. As this energy circulates from the top of your head, just give it a color, some unique color. Maybe it looks like a thick mist of some sort, some color. I've been told that healing is more of a purple type of energy. Calm and peace is like a green, light green energy. But picture that energy and that intention that you want to create as something that cycles out the top of your crown chakra, encircles you, and recirculates back up through the soles of your feet. And again, as any thoughts or distractions come up, just bring it back to the visualization. And as you practice this, you improve upon it. Meaning you're more likely to believe that you are indeed receiving this intention that you're generating for yourself. So for example, mine was connection, and I'm noticing connection flowing out and around me as this beautiful light blue kind of opal energy. And as I focus on this, I realize that I'm connecting to each one of you, to your intentions, and to God or our benevolent Creator's intention for all of us this year. So bring your awareness back. You have a second. Just open up your eyes and notice that as you do, this sphere or this balloon didn't go anywhere. This process, by the way, is called a resonant energy balloon, or a REBAL, R-E-B-A-L. And it was created by Robert Monroe at the Monroe Institute. I took a course this summer on astral projection, and it was really incredible. But this is a foundational process because when you're nervous about finding a parking space, you could actually create a REBAL, visualize the 10 while you're driving, create the REBAL around your car, and program that balloon with ease, flow, the perfect parking spot, and you might be really surprised with how well it works. Something I'll do before I leave the house, or as I'm in between segments of my day, I'll be heading to the trails to run, for example, and I'll program it with vitality and ease in my body and comfort in my joints and that sort of thing, and it becomes a very comfortable run. But a resonant energy balloon is something it's been transformative this year, and I would encourage you to practice and share some of your results. because there's no limit to how good you can get at this, and you can program it with anything that serves you. So if you're around a family member or somebody who really rubs you the wrong way or is just always difficult with you, you can program it with, self-protection and boundaries and ease, but also offer them love and compassion from inside your protective sphere. And all this is doing is it's kind of mobilizing your own energy and awareness around you. And in my experience, your outward experience catches up with that inward experience pretty quickly. So that's a reball. Anybody notice anything interesting about the reball? And I know we're just kind of throwing this on you, but, or has anybody used something like this before? Yeah.
I do it in Reiki, actually.
Oh, yeah, great.
I create a protective space around me and the person I'm giving Reiki to.
This is a great point, because when you're doing any type of service work, coaches, teachers, parents, it's very easy to give and give and give at the depletion of ourselves. And when we're younger and on it and not quite aware of this, we just tend to think that that's how work is. It's just supposed to be depleting. But when you're programming that, you become this infinite resource, this recirculating thing. And what's amazing about it is you could swell that resonant energy balloon to as big as you want. Like, it can encompass this whole building and the whole community, whatever you want. But in doing that, you find that you're inexhaustible. And that's something I didn't know that the first couple of years at Camp GLP. I was like a puddle of inside of a crater at the bottom of a whatever. But over time, I could hold space for many hundreds of people and feel, like I don't need to sleep as much. It's because I'm finally managing my energy. So think about the reball. Practice that when you find yourself being depleted. All right, moving on. Key number 3 is presence. Somebody said that's your intention for the day, so this is for you. Presence, as I define it, is the willingness to see things as they are and to show up fully for ourselves and for others. I don't think it's any coincidence that it's a homonym for a stack of presents with a T. It is literally the biggest gift we could give ourselves and others, is to show up fully. And it's also what allows us to share and receive our inherent value and the value in the moment. It's what allows us to share and receive our inherent value and the value in the moment. And what I mean by that is, if any of you are like me and you're used to being an achiever or a performer, we always feel like we need to dance for our supper, But then we realize if we just surrender all that stuff and say, just being as deeply present as possible is more than enough, it reaffirms that self-love, self-compassion of I am enough. So where I would used to over-prepare for, sales meetings when I was selling media, Chris Straka, you might remember this, I would just cram everything but the kitchen sink into these slides or whatever I was proposing. And then I started realizing that people aren't buying what I'm selling, they're buying my belief in what it is that I'm selling, or my belief in it to improve their lives. And usually that is best conveyed just through presence. So what I try to remind people of that I'm coaching is that if you're overthinking a presentation, for example, or a meditation training like I was overthinking 2 hours ago, I realized that at the end of the day, it's just about presence. Like, you are the content. I am the content. This moment that we have together is truly the content and all the benefits. So if we practice ways to deepen our experience of that, to deepen our connection through that, presence is more than enough. And the best coaches by far are the ones that are willing to be as deeply present as it takes with people. So when I say practice presencing, we've done a couple of these 4-7-8 breathing. That's in for 4, hold for 7, exhale for 8 through the mouth. 4 cycles of that takes 57 seconds. There's no reason why you can't do this. Even if you just leave your house to take a little break between calls or whatever, 4 cycles of 4-7-8, 1 minute, 57 seconds will be transformative. You'll have a better experience of that time away. if you're doing that breathing. I'm going to show you a mantra, what I call the positive change affirmation, and we're going to do it with this process called havening. So havening, oh, there's 478. If you need to screenshot it, go for it. It's about as simple as it gets. Inhale through your nose for a count of 4, hold your breath for 7, exhale with a whooshing sound for a count of 8. The whooshing sound is the reason this works, by the way, is you are enforcing very specific rhythms on the involuntary nervous system. So when 2020 has us running around like we are actually in a series of dumpster fires while so many poops are hitting so many fans, that's the involuntary nervous system telling us that, like, it's okay to freak out. You should breathe very shallow. We should, only give people 2 seconds and then be on to the next thing and talk at people, not to them. That kind of like crisis communication, that over caffeinated shallow breathing thing, that's our involuntary nervous system telling us, like, you are fully at liberty to freak the hell out. There's plenty of reasons to. When we take certain rhythms and enforce them on that involuntary nervous system, 4, 7, 8, this is a big yoga practice, is that we're telling the yogis, we're reminding the involuntary system that we are the ghost in the machine, we are in control, and we can slow things down. So this is an important combination, 4, 7, 8. All right, so this is the positive change affirmation. I love this so much because it's designed to be as self-compassionate as possible to create what we're here to create, which is our willingness to change. We've heard of the growth mindset versus the fixed mindset. This is getting deep into your DNA and saying, I live and thrive inside of a growth mindset. So as we do this, let's just sit up in a comfortable seated posture and reach over to your opposite shoulders like this, like you're a vampire, except you're right side up. And you're going to slide your hands down to your elbows like this, just slowly. And as you're doing this, you're kind of doing what you always wished your mother or whoever would do as a small child. And maybe they did this, and maybe they're an incredible parent. But this little act of touch is creating in our brains what's called GABA, gamma aminobutyric acid. And it is a magical cocktail of soothing magic. I know that was redundant, but that's fine. Magical cocktail of soothing magic. I mean, who wouldn't buy that? If it was on the shelf, you'd buy it. But you don't even need to buy it because you could release it for free by havening. I forgot the 2 brothers that created this process. You can look it up. It's called havening. But what they found was it becomes much more powerful when you add in some sort of mantra while you're doing this and you're actually reminding yourself. So at the end of my meditations in the morning, I'll do a little bit of a havening process, and I'll, work on myself with, whatever issues coming up. So if I'm turning in a deadline of my manuscript to my editor, I'm writing a book right now, haven't really published a book before, So I will say something like, I'm an all-powerful divine creator. I'm already writing this book. I'm showing up to do the writing the best I can, and I'm proud of the work I'm doing. And this might feel a little Stuart Smalley-ish, or, like you're blowing smoke up your wazoo, but really the goal here is to release this cocktail in your brain. And as you do it more, you could feel it happening more. Another havening is from forehead, center of the forehead out to the temples. This one's very powerful. And another simple one that's kind of stealth that where people don't even know you're doing it, is your wrist to your fingertips. So if I'm getting ready to walk on stage, or if I'm getting ready to present and I don't feel prepared, I will just do this for a few minutes, and all of a sudden I'll be completely at center. So let's do this. You can mute yourself and say this to yourself, the positive change affirmation, but while you're havening, you pick one, like either forehead, shoulders, or wrists. And just repeat after me. I can choose to create any level of positive change I commit to. I can choose to create any level of positive change I commit to. I can choose to open my heart and mind to changing through all resistance. I can choose to open my heart and my mind to changing through all resistance. I will choose consciously to improve. I will choose consciously to improve. I will choose consciously to improve. And just stop doing it for a second and notice any tingling prana, anything that's like a residual lingering energy in your hands, in your heart, in your arms, your extremities. Just notice your sense of connection to what you just said. The creators of HAVENII found that when they introduced this to elementary school kids that are having learning disabilities or really like trouble paying attention, that I can choose to open my mind to learning new things. I can choose to open my mind to learning new things. They saw their levels of engagement and their attention spans expand and improve, but they also saw their performance improve just by reminding themselves, like, I can choose to do this. I can choose to become a daily meditator. I can choose to become an author. I can choose to become whatever you want to insert there. I think all of us are on a quest to not be just older versions of the scared little people we were in high school. So to do that, we want to maintain a growth mindset and remind ourselves that we could constantly choose, like up until, you know, my grandmother's 100. And I guarantee you that she's been practicing some version of this, that she's learning new things, she's curious about new things. And I would love to live that long and still be happy. You want to notice how you talk to yourself about the new habit you're creating. Yes, it's cool to try some meditation, but is it even possible to be this consistent? You know, I know people that meditate every day. I can't do that. Or I know people that run marathons every day, or I'm sorry, not every day, every year. And I'm not an athlete. Just notice about like how you're talking to yourself about that. How you're talking to yourself is actually not you. That's that, you know, projection of the ego, that unhelpful little demon on the shoulder that says, who am I to do this? I'm an imposter, I'm full of crap. But if you could cut through it by doing things like a resonant energy balloon, by doing just a little bit HAVENII, just reminding yourself. I have another process called the lens statement of just reminding myself at a deep level what my mission is and why it's my job to carry it out, you know. These are things that just kind of cut through that static and reconnect you with the signal. And by the signal, I mean, you know, similar to the discernment of meditation. We want to be on purpose, on our path, inspired by some benevolent force. We drift off that path. That's totally fine. That's all the static. No shortage of static right now on the media and everywhere else, but just to bring the attention back to the signal. That's what meditation's about. Think about, what am I willing to do more of and or less of in service of your commitments? Just a little suggestion. Whatever's going to happen in how many ever weeks is probably going to happen. And you consuming more unhelpful media and scrolling constantly, I'm talking to myself right now, by the way, I'm not just preaching to you. It may or may not impact the outcome of whatever that is. You know, so these things are designed to get us kind of addicted into and stay in that kind of static loop of things and check, you know, for updates, the constant thing. And, you know, I've done this for so many years now. And the more you meditate, the more aware of it you become, just how unhealthy that hamster wheel is. You know, so think of the things that you need less of in service of your commitment to meditate more or to be a little bit more chill. I would guess that digital media, Facebook news feed, some of those things might be close to the top of the list. I know they are for me. It wasn't super hard for me to quit alcohol 8 years ago. I've become a pretty good quitter. Marijuana. What else did I quit? Oh, caffeine. Well, that was a hard one. But the media is so pervasive and it's so hard. Media and sugar are kind of like my final frontiers. But think of the things that are for you, or what are in the way of your commitment, and what do you need more of and or less of. Key 4. Are we all still in this together here? I just need to like take a second here and look at y'all's faces. Oh, you're all so cute. This is great. Linda Buckner. Yay. Okay, so let's take a look at persistence. Persistence is key. It doesn't happen by accident. You got to like really want it. So persistence, Walt Disney called it stick-to-itivity. You know, when they were producing the first animated feature of Snow White, there was like hundreds, if not thousands of animators all drawing this thing by hand. And he would walk through probably smoking, you know, 2 packs of cigarettes while he's doing it. And he would chant stick-to-itivity, you know, and he would say, plus it up, meaning make something extraordinary. And, you know, tenacity, persistence, audacity, these are the things that we need more of than ever. And meditation actually fuels those things that makes us stronger in those areas. Mastery comes from our relationship to practice. Robert Kwong, who's on this call, is an amazing coach in his own right. And I worked with him last year as a coaching client. And I've always been blown away by your relationship to practice, Robert. Would you mind unmuting, if you don't mind, and share a little bit about what your breakthroughs were around your awareness to practice and how that ties into your piano playing?
Yeah, so at some point this year in my personal development, I rekindled my relationship to playing the piano, which I haven't done since I was a teenager, but has a profound place in my heart. The breakthroughs that I worked on is probably just acknowledging that my relationship to practice is pretty much the same in no matter what I do. So it's not really about what I'm practicing, but the way I am about practice. That's really the breakthrough. And some of it was dissolving that I am very different in a way I practice coaching training or conversations or listening and piano, that there's at the core, it's about my relationship to probably mastery and my relationship to practice, and that it's very similar across the board for me. That was helpful. Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome. Like, so most of us in America or Western culture, we want to flip a switch to mastery and be like, oh, I want to skip all the hard roads of getting there. I just want to be awesome. Or we sign up for crap that includes the word hacks. Like, I never wanted to be a hack in meditation or like a hack in anything really. But to fall in love with practice and to frame practice as what can I give to the practice versus what can I receive for showing up, it just transforms that relationship. And so in meditation practice, it's what can I give to these 5 minutes? What can I give to this 10 minutes? So like I could give my heart self-compassion. I could give my mind a much needed break. I could send loving peace and kindness, blessings to my family. I could give. And in doing so, you get all of that returned back to you. Meditation is the ultimate practice because there's no way around it. You will suck at it. I'm many years into it, and I'm just always amazed at how much I can suck on any given day at meditating. And I was talking to Susan Piver, who's been a Shambhala Buddhist meditation teacher for many decades, and she's like, yeah, like the sucking thing is just it's just a huge part of it, but the willingness to keep practicing through the suck and get to that other side of, I don't know if mastery will ever come in that area, but I do know that my best meditations, they aren't the ones where I just slip into this ecstatic state of bliss. Those happen every once in a while and you think, oh my God, I'm so blessed. But if you don't have like the perfect Lululemon pants on and the perfect candles lit and all this other stuff, you can just practice for the sake of practicing. And my best meditations are the ones where I start out in a dark, cloudy mess of static, and I end up on the other side with less static, or I end up inspired. That's when you realize the power of practice. So transform your relationship to practice, everything else transforms. When in doubt, just keep showing up like you don't know any better. This is another one of like, I think I can mantras that I say to myself. If you're just showing up and being present and being in the seat, I mean, we learn in college that that's like 90% of your grade, like even if you don't take notes, just being there to absorb something. But in practice, showing up no matter what, even if I'm about to miss a day of meditation, if it's 11:59 p.m., I will sit for a minute, or I'll sit, which turned into 10 or whatever. And I just feel grateful that I found some little bit of gas in the tank to honor the commitment. So I'm showing up to the commitment. All right, so we're coming full circle here. I want to give you some just parting thoughts. And what is different about this time for you as it relates to meditation? What are the most predictable obstacles to successful completion or honoring your commitment? What are the most predictable obstacles? We get it that, sleep can be hard to come by. We get it that things are grabbing our attention, and we might actually have true crises in our homes. What if somebody gets COVID, But what are the most predictable obstacles, and what's different about this time? What's your path back if and when you break it? So when you break your commitment, what is your path back? And it's usually one of self-compassion. Just get back on, When I said I would never drink again, I knew there was a very good chance I absolutely would. Unfortunately, I didn't. But with other habits I've broken, when you fall off the wagon or whatever you want to call it, you just get back on with no shame in the game and then do 30 days from that point forward. You don't just beat the hell up over yourself for that one slip. So always know your path back. And the final key is, of course, self-compassion. We've talked a lot about that. I want to share a link to a survey that I would love for you to take a couple minutes and take if you have just a couple seconds here. This really helps me. This really just helps me prioritize what would best support you in creating this habit or deepening your habit. My goal today was to give you some of the tools, some of the latest and greatest around self-compassionate ways to get back to it, to get back to what you said you wanted to do. But I also know that everybody's a little bit different. So if there's specific things or support you need, this little quick survey helps me kind of frame some offerings around that. Like I said, I'm busy, committed to a book right now, so I don't want to get overcommitted on trainings. But if this type of community is helpful for people to form a habit, I'm happy to create it, and for some very nominal admin type of fee, it would be, if it's something that serves the community, I'm happy to MC it. So with that, this is the last practice I want to do. Is so many people on the news, we can't even stand the sight of their faces. And we've been trained to feel this way about other human beings, and it's really unfortunate, no matter how justified we feel, you know what I mean? Whether it's certain politicians or certain others that are others than us, it's not how we're wired to be as souls and as human beings. So this little mantra I came up with a couple months ago, and it's another one of these things that's been really transformative because it has a lot of self-compassion in it while also directing that onto the other. And what you're doing is you're cycling through these. And you can screenshot this if it's helpful, but you want to think through the people in your life that pose the biggest challenge to you. Start with the most rascally of rascals, For me, it's Mitch fucking McConnell. No, I'm just kidding. It could be any, pick a politician. Either side, there's plenty to be annoyed by. But if I practice, I completely love and accept you exactly where you are. I'm not loving and accepting their behavior or their role or their whatever identity. I'm loving and accepting them as their family or as their God or as their whatever loves them. The thing about doing this on airplanes that I miss is that when you walk down the aisle of an airplane, you look at all these people, it looks like a big daycare of older babies sleeping. And I think, how beautiful is it that there's people that love them waiting for them? And how beautiful is it that, we're all in this together? And when you think like that, you start to realize these people are not an obstacle to you getting to the bathroom or getting to your gate or getting to your bags on time. They're actually allies, And I think that's what we're after, especially in an election season. What's gonna win this for whatever side is the lack of resistance to that other side, if that makes sense. So this minimizes resistance. I completely love and accept you exactly where you are. as I completely love and accept myself anywhere I am. I completely love and accept you exactly where you are, as I completely love and accept myself anywhere I am. And as you go through your day, notice when you're making somebody else an obstacle, when they're in the way of your thing that you want, and just try to practice this silently. I completely love and accept you exactly where you are, from whatever perspective you're coming from, as I completely love and accept myself anywhere I am. Are you willing to practice this? All right, so let's just do a quick little last recap. 4-7-8 breathing, resonant energy balloon, the mantra, completely love and accept you, the self-compassion mantra, and the keys: consistency, presence, the sequence, the order that you do things. And that's all I had. I hope you got some of what you came for. Anybody, feel free to unmute your cameras and share anything you're taking with you today. Like, what is one idea that you're taking with you, or what's the value you created?
I love that last bit about resistance. And I feel like the pandemic and everything that's been happening this year has just kind of made all of that rise to the top, but it's also brought recognition in me about how much I don't like to be grouped as, oh, those people are doing things this way, so why on earth would I do, oh, that group is doing things this way? And it really makes one think about that resistance. And yeah, it's really good. It reminds me of loving kindness meditation and how that can be a challenge, but I always feel better when I add a loving kindness meditation to my day.
Yeah. I mean, the thing I've noticed over and over, being just so perplexed by the president's behavior, is, how does somebody with clearly no empathy get to that place in life? And what does that tap into in other people that don't want to, have empathy for other people? But rather, that's not really helpful thinking. What I think is helpful thinking that never gets news coverage is, how do we have the empathy for that guy that he is not capable of having for anybody?
Well, and it does make you think a little bit, like, what on earth kind of childhood did he have? What kind,
but also, of course it does, but that gets us looking over our shoulder, right? Like, it's like a past, like, he's clearly had to endure, or anybody that does this, I don't want to just pick on him.
Right.
Anybody who behaves in a way that we find appalling or challenging, perplexing, it's that adage, they've suffered battles, or they're fighting battles that we have no idea, right?
Right.
And so, like, there's a lot of things written about his mental state and whatever else, but there's not a lot written about how to have compassion for somebody that, like the Dalai Lama was working on this with China his entire life, and they've taken everything from him. It's by no means the majority of people that do this, but I will tell you from personal experience, it's totally liberating. You start to realize, like, oh, if I'm not resisting that person anymore, how much love and extra energy and resources can I give to the other person, or to the cause that I actually care about,
Yeah.
Abraham Hicks, who's like the teachers, masters of law of attraction, they said over and over, what loses elections is the resistance to the other side. It's like that phone pole in the middle of the desert that somebody steers into, even though there's space on either side of it. It's because they're looking at it. So rather than stay braced, and anything could happen. We've been through 2016, we've been through all these elections, is to stay in that place of staying in our power. What can we change? We can vote, damn it. We can organize, we can, be of service. So.
The other thing, Casey, that we talked about just a few weeks or so ago, that you remind me of, and in the way you live, I think you do it all the time, is to remember to connect to your joy, and that there's joy all the time if you allow it. So, and that's why I forget how much I like that havening. It's like,
Oh my
well,
God.
I get to Haven with this guy too.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, Haven with the dog.
Yeah.
I've had Shauna here the past few weeks. Shauna is our essential oils
Yeah.
master. She gives me these oils that have crystals in them and stuff. These blends are insane. But we've been practicing a lot of just cool stuff with the kids, and a resonant energy balloon, like a reball, programming it with joy. It looks like this bright yellow energy braiding around you, flowing up through your feet. And then you go out into the fall sunshine and watch the leaves fall like blessings. And you're like, oh my God, I get to be alive right now. I mean, and it's not fooling yourself. You know what I mean? It's just like, it's literally practicing tapping into the undercurrent that's always there,
Well, and it's actually made me sometimes feel a little guilty because it's like, wait a minute, I'm like actually doing really well, feeling happy, feeling good. Like, hold on, and then I watch the news. But like, if I can hang on to that, there's nothing like it.
Well, the last point I'll make on that is, like, if you're not consciously programming your field or your sphere, I define meditation as getting your own attention, like 4-7-8 breathing, pulling your awareness back as many times as necessary, directing your attention, and then finally, the final one's directing your attention, like programming it with what you want to experience.
Right.
And if you're not doing that, people are happy to do it for you and program it with misery, so you spend more money. So it's like,
Right.
You're not enough, you might be overweight, you're like, whatever they tell us, you're too old. And I just didn't want to spend all of the pandemic. I definitely did have my Amazon shopping binges, like when I was just processing shit, but I'm like, I don't want to just spend the day like opening up boxes of garbage that I bought yesterday, So how about you, Holly? What are you taking with you?
Oh my gosh, there's so much. I mean, I've got pages of notes here, but I think the one that's really sticking out is right after you said the fifth key, and the like really just offering up more love and acceptance and being able to do that. And I think that's gonna really allow me to flow better. I had an experience I'm a runner as well, and I'm training for I'll be running the virtual Marine Corps marathon in 2 weeks.
Wow.
And I was listening to this book called The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks.
I love that book. It's a
Great book. And I was aiming to, because it's going to be a virtual experience, I was aiming to be very aware of my space and what was around me. So that way I could then relay to my husband, hey, here's some great places for where you could meet up with me or cheer me on, and just trying to map things out a little bit more, versus when you go to a race, it's all taken care of for you.
Yeah.
And so as I was increasing my awareness and sending out love to people that I was passing and waving at and smiling and being able to have that joyous exchange of seeing others, I was just, again, increasing the awareness. And the experience that happened is, as I was increasing my awareness, I look over and I notice a building. Like, oh, I hadn't noticed that building before. And just as I noticed that building, I then find myself face down on the ground, and I totally had misjudged like where the edge of the trail went, and I completely rolled off the side of the trail. I was like, oh, here I am.
Right.
It's about bringing yourself into presence. And then I just realized I'm okay. Okay, I've got some scrapes. One of my favorite pairs of running tights just got tore up. Okay, but I'm okay. And then there was this beautiful couple behind me, so sweet. And they're like, oh my goodness, are you all right? Are you all right? We just all of a sudden saw you down. And I'm like, I'm good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Just thanking them that was okay, and thanking them for asking. Like, there's just pure joy that was taking place.
Well, there's a lot of gifts. There's a lot of gifts in being humbled, but there's like but also I love the thing about the running. Running is a meditation. Everything can be a meditation. So like when I think about running, if I'm thinking about just getting up to the next mile marker, I'll psych myself out and I'll want to walk because it feels so far away or whatever. And if I'm thinking about how I felt, on other runs or behind me, it's not quite the thing. But if I'm like focused on the balls of my feet and it's like pitter patter, and like a mantra, like light as a feather, light as a feather, light as a feather, light as a feather, you start feeling like you're floating a little bit, you know, and you start to feel like you start to look at people like, hey, how you doing? Like, can I help you? Yeah, I miss doing marathons. That sounds awesome, a virtual marathon.
It feels a little crazy, but the thing that's been really cool about it is during this time, during this pandemic time and all the challenges, all the crazy and chaos. And I'm in the midst of writing my first book as well. So there's so many things you said, like, oh my gosh, yes. It's been a really beautiful way where I felt like when I go out on a run, I feel like that's my way to process and think. And it's also my way to give to the earth, like with each step, giving the energy as well as receiving that energy. And in passing other bikers and walkers and runners and having that exchange of, I see you,
Yeah,
and you're awesome. And seeing the animals on the trail and the way that the water flows and the way that the tree leaves fall. And yeah, I love what Wendy had just pointed out, how you said to focus on that joy, because there's so much. So thank you. Thank you. So much goodness.
My pleasure. Yeah. Are you going to meditate any more or less after this?
Absolutely more, because I think I had started to get into the process where I usually do it every morning, and then I often do an evening meditation as I go to sleep. And I had begun back in June doing a midday meditation, and then for whatever reason I've gotten away from that midday meditation the last few weeks. I think it was as my son started back in my youngest son started back in homeschooling and virtual schooling, and my attention was being diverted. But I think definitely more meditation, and even if it's a minute or two here or there, just to bring in that presence.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, quality over quantity. It's yeah. How about you, Straka? Have you experienced with meditation? Have you thought about doing it more?
Yes. My wife Melanie is actually on here too. She's muted. She's at work at lunch, but you know, we definitely need to try to make more time for sort of focusing ourselves. I'm more the nervous energy ball. She's more the calm, collected, and we kind of yin and yang and try to balance each other out. But I'd like to definitely focus more of my sort of nervous anxiety and energy into my own control, was my word, and use that sort of to my benefit and to benefit others and people around me.
Yeah. Yeah. Like something to think about, you know, I know Chris from working in media, you know, and media is all built around the clock, you know, deadlines and air dates and schedules, and like, it's very ridiculous, right? And to move myself out of that, I found that all my happiness existed outside of that. I could work inside that thing, but my happiness wasn't inside that thing.
Yeah.
And so like, even if it's not, you know, the sitting practice, the daily sitting practice strengthens that muscle so you can make better decisions to serve your joy and all that. But even just like those little experiments of like programming the balloon, you know, and, you know, being with people. I mean, all these things, they add up over time. And once you have a kid, your kid teaches you how to do that, ready or not. You know, the kids will teach you how to be in the present moment or die trying.
For sure.
They don't know anything else. Blanca Rodriguez, I'm seeing your face. Que bonita.
Hey.
Hey.
Well, I'm looking at, I grew up like really having school program everything for me, and my parents program everything for me. And so right now, since all of this has started, I am kind of lost. Like, how do I do things for myself? I'm not working right now. I'm teaching, I'm not even doing distance learning for my daughter. I'm teaching her myself. I created a school just for her. And so I'm doing private schooling with her. And I feel like like my word is grace. Like I have to give myself that grace of where I was just go all my life. And now it's like, even right now, I'm going to go on a bike ride with my daughter, and I'm thinking, oh, okay, so it's sunny outside. I can wear something where I get a tan at the same time. And then I also have to do this and stop on the way. Maybe we'll stop and get a veggie drink somewhere, like as we're going on our way. So it's kind of like, how do I pick one small thing at a time? Like you said, you know, the 5 minutes a day or the 2 minutes a day, pick something that's not trying to be the best at something, because right now it shuts me down. It is having, it used to bring me joy to be involved in a lot of things, and now it gives me anxiety. So how do I go back into myself? Like my color was orange. I kept seeing orange as we were doing the bubble, and I'm like, okay, burning, flaming, I'm getting out there. And then I thought of your picture of the dumpster fire. I'm like, okay, I don't want that kind of flaming.
Well,
So,
there's sacred orange, like ochre, like the color of Swami's robes, you know, like ochre orange.
yeah,
But the thing to think about, and I want to be respectful of everybody's time here too, is that there's the being and the doing, and we can't do our way out of whatever's going on in the world right now. Like we can't like be enough places, do enough things, change that kind of thing. Like we'll be exhausted and be depleted. But the being is where the joy lives, where, you know, a vision of what we should be doing. There's like what we want, and then we get what we need, like a Rolling Stone song. And what we need is like your daughter may remember this bike ride with you for the rest of her life. You know what I mean? And then our brains will be like, but how do I get paid to be on my bike so I can pay my rent, you know, like while I'm, you know, off doing these other things. And there's so many paradoxes in this, you know, that like I've had to kind of reinvent and rejigger my whole business this year, because like I didn't, you know, like all these old structures are falling away, but they're falling away for good reason. And if you hold out hope and faith, it's leading us somewhere better. You know, like you say, you're not working. Well, you're working on being a phenomenal private teacher for your daughter. So it's like, what is your daughter's education? What's the return on investment for that over the course of a number of years? You can't even put a price tag on it, right? And I get that there's a day-to-day struggle of like, okay, bills and life and all this stuff, but you know, it's October now. We're all still here. Some of us, believe it or not, are having an incredible year regardless. And we got to keep unwrapping these gifts. You know, it's a weird one for sure. But I'm super proud of you for, you know, honoring your daughter and sharing all of your brilliance with her. I can't think of a better education. Would it be weird for you to adopt a white 45-year-old man from Ohio? Would that be weird?
a little.
Would it? Okay, okay. We'll talk about it offline. We don't need to make a decision now, but I'll have my mom draft up the papers.
Okay.
Well, I want to thank everybody. If you get a chance, please take the survey. It's in the chat, and I'm happy to email it out. But the survey really helps me just collect some information over what would be most useful and how to continue this. And I hope you got more than what you came for today. Part of my own practice is to be in service as much as possible. This isn't, I'm going to stop recording here.